Hello friends, Brogan here. Just want to talk a little bit about the breakdown for some of my AI creation pipeline for two of my shorts that I submitted, both for the trailer for Sarabande and for 7 Days in the narrative category. So let's get down to it. So normally when we're building out an idea, we want to first start with what is the thing. We start with pre-production in the script and visual concepting stage. Think into your mind's eye and think of base construction. I want to make a building, right? I have to first have the base floor level. This is where we start with the script. In the case of Sarabande, I had already had a script that I had written, and so that made it a lot easier to then start constructing what would become eventually the shot list. Once I had a shot list, I then started getting little ideas in Midjourney about what was the general look and the construction that I was going to end up using. Once you get going with your initial images, what you really want to do is think in terms of driving keyframes, beginning and end, or what I call driving images, where I can place it at the beginning or at the end and tell the camera what I'm going to do later on in Runway ML. But before we get there, we have to have essentially the movie in a storyboard type format. Luckily, we have amazing programs like Midjourney that allows us to do this. This is where the key parts of trying to get the exact look that we're aiming for is so key. Get it where we want, get it to where we want it to go, take that, build it, and then take it into Photoshop if we need additional edits, and then from there, any of those keyframes for particular scenes that I might have, I will then take and put into Runway ML. But before that, I want to explain a little bit in detail what I do once I take it into Photoshop in an example. So a perfect example of me doing this was when I needed to get this shot of the icon that Sarabande holds. I had already had an image that I had generated which had a section just for it, but it didn't have quite exactly the right image and I couldn't get it in Midjourney through inpainting. So knowing that I have skills as a designer, I ended up going and taking it into Photoshop and taking an already existing image and essentially photoshopping it onto the shot, which allowed me to then take that image, now with the baked in other image inside of it, into Runway ML seamlessly. Once you have these images, you can then take them to Runway ML, drop them in there, and start giving commands to use them as driving images for your video. Think of it this way as a sort of image to video, video to video, and then if you need to, act one in order to get your exact performances that you need. A lot of times when I am generating images to video in Runway ML, you want to make sure that you have a good enough hit rate. If you can't, then it can get a little dicey and you can run into issues. You want to aim for about a 1:6 hit rate. Some of my best shots that I've ever gotten, it was a 1:1, where I put in my driving image, typed in what I wanted the camera to do in Runway, and then boom, voila, I got exactly what I wanted. Other times it takes a little more coaxing, and you have to make sure that you're telling the camera what you want it to do or not do. Or you might have to switch video models, such as switching from Gen 3 Alpha to Gen 3 Alpha Turbo. Once you have all those clips, you then drop them into your preferred editing software of choice, Premiere or After Effects. The last part of this is always the most tricky because I'm not an actual true sound designer. And that is essentially, you go in, you begin the process of first getting an audio musical clip that you can use. That depends on your taste, of course, that you can then cut and edit your shots to if you can, depending on what you're making. If it's a trailer, you're going to do that more so than if it's something that's more narratively driven. But a lot of times, what really sells shots, or what really sells the concept or idea, is to have good sound design. In my particular case, I used 11 labs in order to generate all of my sounds. A speeder flying by, an explosion, a gunfire, a sword hitting something else, waves crashing on the beach, You go into 11 Labs, generate the sounds that you need, and then line them up on your timeline, get them all exactly where you need to go. And then once you're done, you render it out to completion, and boom, voila, you have your completed piece.